Why do you like being a writer, and tell me when you first thought of The Dead Awakenings, your first book?
So I decided to become an author because I used to do theater and musical theater, and after I started having kids, I realized it was taking way too much time away from my kids. So I said, okay, well, then I'll just make up characters instead of play characters. So I was sitting, actually, for Dead Awakenings, I was sitting at a homeschool event. We were in Knitting Circle with a bunch of ladies, and one of them was an author, and she said she'd just been to a writer's conference and publishers were looking for a zombie romance. And I said, that's terrible. Who would ever think of a zombie romance? But it stuck with me, and it was one of those things where I could not get it out of my head. And so I was talking to my husband. He's like, well, if you were going to write it, what would you do? And I said, well, I'd take out everything you know about zombies and I'd start from there. And so that's kind of how it started. My deaders, they're called deaders. They're kind of a mix between a vampire and a zombie, and some of them have superpowers. And so it was a lot of fun. And then once I started writing that, it was 150,000 words 1 month. The next month I wrote a different book that was vampires. That was 150,000 words. And then the next month I wrote a third one, and I said, I'm done. And that lasted about 30 days.
So tell us about the different series that you have and why people should read them.
So Dead Awakenings is a standalone right now. I have 2 more books in that series, but I haven't really decided where to go with them yet. I have Reign of the Vampires. That one's a lot of fun because it's vampires rule this world dystopian, but it's told from the vampire's point of view as opposed to the human's point of view. I've always loved fairy tales, so my Fairelle series is fantasy romances, fairy tale retellings, all it's set in the same world where, you know, the characters move from book to book. And then my Otherworlder series came about because everything I was writing was so serious. I just wanted to write something goofy for me, so I thought of this fae who has absolutely no magical powers, and she becomes a PI for Otherworlders here, and she starts having these weird cases and weird things happen to her, and it just became a lot of fun. And I wrote it for me and thought, if nobody likes these books, I really don't care, because they're hysterical, and I think they're hysterical, and they caught on and people thought they were funny. So
what would surprise a reader about your different series that they wouldn't expect in your books?
I write a lot of plot. So I'm known for romance, but I am very plot heavy. So mine aren't just simply, you know, guy meets girl, they have trouble, they fall in love. Like, I love fantasy, I love fight scenes. There are a lot more fight scenes and love scenes in my books because I absolutely love fight scenes. Because I come from a D&D background, being a dungeon master and things like that, my fantasy series especially, the fight scenes are very detailed. I use a lot of technical language, just because that's the kind of stuff. I mean, like, I'd rather watch an action movie than a love story movie, which is kind of weird, but it's just how I am. I love a lot of action.
So coming from D&D, how did D&D and playing games help you create all the worlds you've made?
Oh my gosh, I have a blog post that I wrote years ago, 10 things D&D taught me about being a writer. You know, playing D&D it really teaches you how to make a character, how to embody a character, and make a character come to life, which is a really great thing that I loved. Coming from that D&D and theater background, you want these characters to be people. You want them to be alive, not these, you know, cardboard cutouts. Another thing D&D taught me, and gaming, and because I play a lot of RPGs, is the mechanics of fighting. You know, you're not going to put a girl in chainmail and throw her into battle because she's not going to last very long. You know, things like, how much does a sword really weigh? What kind of sword, you know, can you use in a small hallway? Throw a fireball from the back of the group. Who in your group are you going to hit? Just interesting things like that really make it a lot more realistic in that aspect. Instead of, I don't want my readers to read my books and be like, yeah, that's not technically possible. So D&D really helped me learn how to do all that stuff.
Would you ever offer a game that you can play D&D with your characters?
Yes, actually my daughter and I are working on one right now for Alice in Wonderland, and my Fairelle series, we are looking at making into, because it is an entire world, immersive world of its own with its own creatures and stuff like that, and it has 2 different magic systems in it. We're actually looking at turning that into a D&D module and a playthrough for people. The other one, Dead Awakenings, I know my husband wants to turn that one into a game. We're turning that one into a graphic novel. That one would be a little bit more difficult, I think, just based on the story elements, but Fairelle is such a humongous world that one would be an easy one to do and a lot of fun.
Now, I understand one of your books, I think, is a shared universe with another author. Talk about that.
So, the shared world is speed dating with the denizens of the underworld, and there's a lot of us that are in it. I think there's about 20 of us authors that are in it, and it's all based on characters that live in the underworld. I decided to take the Norse gods, so I have Thor, Fenrir, and Loki are the three that are out right now. Tyr, Odin are coming out later. My friend Angel Payne, who's also here, her first one just came out in that series. It's Hercules. We have all kinds of Greek gods, Norse gods, African gods, Lucifer, demons, just anything that would be in the underworld is in that series, and they're a lot of fun too.
Now, I understand you also have an Emmy Award movie that you came out for.
We did.
Talk about that. How did that happen?
So, Rekindling Christmas is a book that I wrote. It's, if you think of Hallmark, but it has like actual conflict in it. That's one of the books that I wrote, and we had it made into a movie, and it got nominated for an Emmy, which was really cool.
Why are Comic-Cons so important for publishers like you?
Comic-Cons are important, I think, because when I go to romance cons, which I love, it's all romance authors. But since what I write is not strictly just romance, I write a lot of stuff. I have Gothic horror, steampunk, and sci-fi. It really helps to open it up to the audience who loves the kind of things I do, and it's fun because there's little, Easter eggs in my books for different things, whether it be Star Wars or, a nod to something else that I really love. And so finding all these other fandoms that love that kind of stuff, it's a lot of fun finding new readers who see those Easter eggs and know what they actually mean. And I think just interacting with people because, I am a romance writer, I am a writer, but I also am a huge Star Wars fan, I'm a huge anime fan, and I love all these different things. So being able to meet people who like more than just that, they like all the things that I like, is a lot of fun.
And if someone can't make it to the Comic-Con, how can they find you? What's your website?
My website is RebekahGaniere.com, but I'm on all social media as Vampire Zombie, Vampires, Werewolves, and Zombies, on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and Facebook and just everywhere.
Do you do a Kickstarter?
I have not yet. We're actually working on one right now. My book Dead Awakenings, we're looking at doing one for that. And also I'm looking at doing some special editions for the Fairytale books that are hardcover, and we'll have gilded edges and a lot of illustrations in them and things like that. And if we end up doing a D&D, then we'll put that on Kickstarter. I love Kickstarter. I've spent way too much money on Kickstarter.
Well, because there's such a passion for writing, what would you tell someone else who wants to write their own book, what not to hold back and why to write it?
If that's what you want to do, that's what you should do. Like when I wrote my first book, Dead Awakenings, I had gone to college for musical theater. I hadn't gone for writing, so I didn't really know what I was doing. And I just started, I just wrote it pen on paper, which I then had to transcribe into a computer at a later date. But I just started writing, and if you have a story in you, write the story. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Write it for yourself. Write what you love. Write something that you find entertaining, and go from there. And it doesn't matter if your grammar's wrong. It doesn't matter, if your punctuation isn't right. If you don't know that stuff, open a book. That's what I had to do. I literally, when I first started, I was like, how is dialogue structured? I can't even remember. It's been a while since I've been in high school. And I opened up a book and was like, oh, that's how you do it. And you find the easy way to do it. And don't even worry about that stuff. Just let your creative flow. That's the biggest thing, I think, is a lot of writers will stop and be like, well, I'm not good enough. I don't know how to write yet. I don't know the technical things. That stuff doesn't matter in the beginning. That's all stuff you deal with later. You get your story out. You get it out of you, and then you go from there, and all that other stuff falls into place. You can learn all that other stuff, but you have to let your creative flow.
And once again, what's your website?
RebekahGaniere.com.